Wabona consumer baby sanega and so. What's that here? Waba him baby, what's that your baby on the Mawano? All just Pantana Bodamwe. All just Pantana Bodamwe. Wabona consumer baby sanega and so. Wabona consumer baby sanega and so. What's that here?
120 years ago, the British colonial authorities finally invaded Kumasi, the capital of the epic 19th century empire, and arrested the 26-year-old king of Asante, Kwekudua III, also called Nana Ajiman Prempeh I, the Queen Mother, Nana Ye-cha, and 50 others. They were sent first to Elmina in the coastal area of what was then the Gold Coast as political prisoners, and then to Freetown, Sierra Leone, before crossing the Indian Ocean to the Seychelles island aboard the SS Dakwa. This was in 1896, and at a time Asante had sent a mission to London to negotiate the terms of British incorporation of it into its colonial enclave. The mission was in London, where Joseph Chamberlain, the Secretary of State for the colonies, ordered the invasion. The arrest, which was meant to destabilize the empire and its leadership, led to the last of 8 Anglo-Asante wars of 1900, led on the Asante side by a woman, Yasantwa, Queen Mother of Edweso, later exiled to join Prempeh and the others in Seychelles. It set the tone for the decline of one of Africa's well-built empires since the 1700s. Some of the exiles, including Nana Ye-cha and Yasantwa, died on the islands, but others survived, including Prempeh I, whose 27-year captivity is equivalent to Nelson Mandela's Robben Island experience. He was eventually allowed by the British to return to Kumasi, dying 10 years after. 120 years after, there is a successor king, also called Kwekudua, with the stool name of Oseiutu II. He inherits, as Prempeh's great-grandnephew, an unbroken but diminished Asante kingdom. The historic visit he makes to the tropical islands nation, associated with paradise and described by the political scientist Salabert as prison without bars, was under different circumstances. No military escort of the imperial imprimatur, but in glory from an independent Ghana, guest of honor of the President of the Republic of Seychelles. Ivor Ajimandua, an analyst of Seychelles Asante relations from the 1800s, traveled on the return of a king to Seychelles to continue his television interpretation of this most dramatic but also sorrowful episode in 19th century Asante's history, one of exile and dispossession into the unknown. History's shadows were on these coastal waters of Mahé. The first cosmopolitan king of Asante, Prempeh I, had made the 3 weeks journey by the sea route 120 years ago, aboard the SS Dakwa. His great-grandnephew, in a solemn, historic but long-awaited memorial visit, arrives by plane on April 22nd from South Africa to the Mahé International Airport as the sun sets on these blue waters. Otumfou II was received as king and accorded the courtesy of a head of state, and also as special guest of honor at the French-influenced colonial architecture, the State House in Mahé, by President James Michel. It was here they engaged in conversations of historical renewal.
Waiting for a long time. As the
the message came to the master that I have to come to Seychelles.
Joe.
My great uncle, haven't set foot on the ground.
Joe.
No fault of us.
It feels it's an honor to present to you. That is two. The stone is a symbol of the authority of the king. And
to your Creole Dutch, welcome to the Seychelles, greetings everywhere.
I'm going to say please allow me to present to you the symbol of Seychelles.
Nana Otio Sribo summed up the follow-up implication of the visit and strategies of fulfillment.
on behalf of the king and myself and my king again, I have to say thank you for this warm reception this morning. The ambience is historical in itself. You know, this stately mansion made us feel very much, or have made us feel very much at home. First time when the king came here, it was rather under inauspicious circumstances. But now we are coming with full honor, glory, and grandeur.
The meeting with descendants of King Prempeh as evidence of this living story was a bundle of emotions. Mary Marimba Prempeh and her 3 sons and a daughter are the only remaining direct descendants of Prempeh, though they are descendants of the other exiles. Mary's mother Susie was a direct daughter of James Prempeh, son of the Asantehene. Known and treated in high regard, including by the media in Mahé, these descendants have given ambassadorial services to Ghanaians who have passed through the shores of the island. Besides, bearing of ancestral resemblances, the post-death spirit of Prempeh is infectious in numerology of incidents.
Sweet paradise in my
Susie shares the same birthday with the King Prempeh, December 18. Terry, born on September 11th, was the same day the king arrived in Seychelles. And Andrew, born on November 11th, was when King Prempeh departed the island back to Kumasi.
I feel very proud to be with you today, and it's very sentimental too. Yes, very touching. Yes, to be with you here.
My brothers and I, as well as mom, it's very honored to be here with you all, and it is such an honor to meet you all as well. You've heard a lot about Ghana and about the Ashanti family, and now we are honored to have you here. Thank you.
When we sit in Kumasi, we still feel an attachment because we know you are here. And for 150 years since the old man was brought here, we haven't forgotten that Seychelles is also one of our homes that we have to visit. And finally we are here to meet you. I sent Ivors to come to explore. We gave you the report about meeting him and the courtesies you extended to him when he was here. That affirmed the blood relation. The fact that you wrote to the hotel to say, I'm not going to let you stay in the hotel, come home and live with me. It is not gratitude, but it's a matter of your duty to have done that, bringing the family together here. His grandfather also was exiled to Seychelles, and he also died here. So it's all much about the same family. But we have come here at the invitation of your government. And for the next 3 days, we shall be sharing this visit with you. You are now part of our delegation. We've come to take you from Seychelles to join us to enjoy the visit. hope that one day we shall bring you to Kumasi to down also to see our little work on that so that we can bring you down to have a look and then learn more about where you came. Secondly, it's a great family, it's a great kingdom, it's a great nation, Ghana. And so you must be missing out, as we are also missing out here because we are also here. So we will bring that together. We have cousins and uncles who are still there, that we deem it necessary that we don't want to lose the roots here. Whilst we don't want you also to lose the roots back. So we do everything possible to bring us together again. We certainly wouldn't abandon you, we certainly wouldn't leave you here. We always will keep on reminding you that your roots are in Ghana. That you rest assured that we still have a family, we still have a king back home, thinking about you, knowing that you are here. So we thank you for coming.
The magic of your Creole perch, soft as the sunrise. In my eyes, I need to feel the freedom of the breeze, showing me the keys to your Creole touch.
It is here, at the cemetery in Seychelles, that some of the political exiles who accompanied Nana Adjumani Prempeh were buried. Mary Prempeh's mother, Susie, and Susie's sister, Huguette, who died in the mid-2000s, were buried far off from here. The cemetery has as well the tombs of several gallant soldiers who fought on the side of the British and the Allied forces during the Second World War on the East African frontier. The current Queen Mother of Edgesu, Nana Santua, assisted by the Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Creative Arts, Elizabeth Ofusu Ajare, laid a wreath on behalf of Asante and Ghanaian women and their Chempemhene Ohiniba Edusei Poku on behalf of Asante Man.
Memory and all the faithful parts those that they rested.
Bienvenue aux Seychelles. Vive le soleil.
And I'd like to be the one who asks and welcomes His Majesty the King from Ghana to please say a few words to Seychelles. Your Majesty.
Otokoine kase krobia ine kasangen. Otokoine kase krobia ine kasangen. Mema krobia iri fiang mani kotokengen. Mema krobia iri fiang mani kotokengen. Ose chilichie mi modi wi avisio. Ai ne benya se biso supeni ni akaba kuma sika po bani o. O krasa tinaje kasangen.
For years to come, Seychellois will live with the memories of Carnival Victoria and the vignettes of his highlights, the king's big umbrella, his headgear or crown, the smoothing voices of the royal poets or Otumfou amidst the ivory trumpet antiphonies, as well as the punctuation of his speech with linguistic affirmative approval.
Your Excellency, President James Michel, Excellencies, Your Royal Highness, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, 15 years ago, it became my dawn privilege to ascend the golden stool as the 16th king of the Asante Kingdom. Your great country, Seychelles,
has been gracious enough to invite me and my delegation to make a symbolic return to the island. And we have chosen what we think is the right moment for this memorable voyage into history. We have chosen, not as some would have wished, to come and mourn and unburden ourselves of the pain and anguish of the past. We have chosen instead to join you in celebrating the joy of freedom. And I'm happy to bring with me the direct granddaughter of our legendary warrior Queen Mother, who apparently bears the name of Nana Yasantua II. For it was the courage to dare to be free of foreign domination that brought us into captivity. And your island was chosen for our refuge because, like the Gold Coast, you too were a colonial outpost. Today, we are liberated within a strong, sovereign, united Ghana, and you too are liberated. So we join together in freedom to celebrate the creativity of our people, expressed in song and dance, in poetry, and in the fine arts. We salute the government of the Republic of Seychelles under your wise president on the organization of this carnival, and particularly for the effort to make it a focal point to international cooperation and the expression of authentic African culture. The more opportunities we create for the peoples of Africa to share and exhibit their inherent talents, the greater the prospects for achieving genuine unity and removing the sources of discord. When hearts are joined together to sing and dance together, there can be no room for xenophobia. Our destiny lies not in cutting each other adrift, but in joining our minds together to think, search, to innovate, and to create. We have come to join you today to send this message to this troubled world that it is possible to rise above the pain and anarchy of history, to let go of the past and focus on the things that are beneficial to the well-being of our generation.
Media interest in the visit, and particularly Otumfou's traditional sitting arrangement at the carnival facing President Michel and former President James Mancham, drew its symbolic interpretation. Asante history and Prempeh's exile in Seychelles is part of the school curriculum. And a newspaper article by President Mancham asking for a serious public and government debate about the guest's speech generated the desired discussion. The Otumfou, in an unusual practice, granted an interview to the Seychelles Broadcasting Corporation for the Top Flight program, 20 Minutes, which drew one of its biggest evening audiences as he discussed Seychelles-Asante relations, but also international affairs.
Some managers and people out there, and the young players themselves, see it as economic development, so they want big money. So obviously when foreign teams contact them, they sign agreements and leave. So a player that you think could have helped your team to develop, within a year or two, he's left you. And you still have to start again by looking for a new one. That is the only thing affecting my team. But we shall come back to that. And then we'll come to Seychelles. If we have a team here, I can bet that we'll beat them.
That will be a very interesting match.
Yes.
Your Majesty, coming back to Seychelles, will you have the opportunity to visit some parts of the country outside the Carnival before you go back?
I would love to do that. It's a beautiful island. Driving through within these few days, I realized that it's a beautiful island, and I would love to explore that further. Or maybe come back privately next time and then be able to explore the whole island later.
Thank you very much, Your Majesty.
Thank you
for
very
answering our
much.
questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If the descendants are living products of the exile story, the plantation house here at Le Rocher, a district within Mahé where Prempeh lived and still standing, is a resilient symbol of the narrative. Rented from a French family, the Adams, by the British, it was within this enclave that the Asante village, homes of the other political exiles, were until Prempeh moved into the property. Nearby and far off from here, the British had kept other anti-colonial leaders from the empire, including those from Palestine, Afif Didi of the Maldives, Archbishop Macarius from Cyprus, who became leader of independent Cyprus, the Kabaka Mwanga of Uganda, and the Sultan of Derak, Malaysia, Abdullah Jafar Moratham, in the roll call of resistance leaders. With the exception of this property as a historical heritage, all the others are gone to regeneration enterprises or redevelopment by private owners. But for minor renovation, this property is as Prempeh lived in. It was in this house that he was taught to read and write in English, and at a relatively short time to the surprise of his instructors. It is here that most of the over 1,000 correspondences he exchanged with the British colonial officers were written, and most probably where he wrote, with the guidance of his mother, Nana Yi-chan, in 1907, the first Asante interpretation of empire history, the history of Asante kings and the whole country itself. But by traveling with 52 other chiefs and queens symbolic of the exiles, Otumfou Osei Tutu II did not only seek to reenact history, but to situate his thinking of the present into the past. It was at this same spot that Nana Ajiman Prempeh was photographed with the exile group. His great-nephew will record his presence with his entourage the same way, the changing face of history at the place of their desolation. He leaves with mixed feelings but congratulates the Adams family for keeping the heritage of his uncle and of Asante Man's interest in his present and future preservation.
To be able to visit at this time, to see where he lived for over 24 years, and especially you being the real owners of the house and still continue to be the owners and admitting us. It means you also admit as the old man was there.
She always, all your man said, please try to listen. Your mom until she died, which I did. I looked after her for 27 years. And secondly, she said, take care of this house. We'll try. Thank you.
With nothing to lose, life is just an easy cruise in paradise. Forget the wheels, forget the bills, let's climb the hills. from all the youth, life is just an easy cruise in the Seychelles Isles. Always dreamt to take you there, leave all the hurt you bear. It's written, hidden in somewhere where you and I.
Of all Prempeh's experiences on the island, the most enduring and of rippling effect was the contestation of faith, his and Asante's, in God. It was not in doubt as far as they were concerned. The British, when Queen Victoria was Empress of much of the world, had converted and given him the Christian name of Edward. At the St. Agnes's Anglican Church, where he was baptized, though it would be in this church, St. Paul's Anglican Cathedral, he worshipped most of the time.
I would like to welcome you at St. Paul's Cathedral. Today is the fourth Sunday of Easter. It's a service of thanksgiving, of memorial for King Prempeh of Ashanti. It is good to welcome you in this place. We also give thanks for the King's 16th anniversary of his enthronement.
My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, today from the Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to John, we have the words of Jesus explaining his role to the Pharisees. In the beginning of this chapter of the Gospel according to John, he answers the Pharisees as we question him as to who he is, and he answers them, I am the good shepherd. That's who Jesus really is. For Jesus, the good shepherd, knows his sheep, and he knows all the details of our lives. You and I have nothing to hide from the Good Shepherd.
Prempeh permitted one of his sons, John, to be ordained as an Anglican priest in the bigger island of Mauritius. It was a pacifist act to the British and commitment of faith. Paul Boateng, born during the exile with his brother Thomas, later explained that, I do not think the elders sat down and rationalized whether they would convert or not. They found themselves in an alien context. Here, in Seychelles, the people drew comfort and strength from God, whom they worshipped in a different way. It was the same God as far as the elders were concerned. It was later that they had to decide on a Christian denomination.
Perhaps Nelson Mandela modeled his life after King Prempeh. By this visit, Otumfou II has asked me that to inform you that the memory of his grandmother and his achievements will always encourage him to pursue assiduously the legacy bequeathed by the great King Prempeh. Once again, I would like to thank you, I love Bishop, priest and the congregation for the benefit of this service, and wishes to inform you that even though each will be far away from you in Ghana, his is always with you who works at this church.
But much has not changed in Asante's belief that God should be worshipped in a cultural context. The Asante royalty is mainly Anglican, thanks to Prempeh's baptism. But the ivory trumpet poets and verbal artists still use their media to glorify God in the most cultural form of hybridism and through the sacrament of the Eucharist. The Asantehene is today the titular head of the church in Asante, the Metropolitan Archbishop of the province of West Africa, and the primate is the Bishop of the Kumasi Diocese and a subject of the King, the Most Reverend Dr. Daniel Yinka Safu, as well as descendants of Prempeh who have been chancellors and peoples and priests wardens over the decades. The impact is geo-neutral, and the singing of Handel's Zadok the Priest or God Save the Queen could be with the same flourish whether the Archbishop of Canterbury is officiating at the Westminster Abbey or St. Cyprian the Martyr in Kumasi. A century and 2 decades of a young king's exile is remembered with deep meaning. Hawkish historians tend to treat Prempeh's reign with peripheral analysis and overlook his reasoning power at the time, when resistance to an arch-imperial intention of destruction did not always lead to resolution at the crossroad of history. They turn to forget also that throughout the period he was the testament of cultural faith and its defense through history writing and the elegy of letters. The personally taught history of his people to the new generation born on the island and celebration of Asante festivals. That he also became a sorrowful figure of cultural bereavement, having to bury his parents and other elderly chiefs in a foreign land without due honors as leader of the exiled group. He has written in one of his letters that of the 54 people I came with, there remain only 6 chiefs, and out of the 6, 1 is blind. The remaining are old and ill. This has created more loneliness as compared to when we were so crowded. These letters of melancholy created nationalistic protests from the intelligentsia in the Gold Coast, including from Nana Oforiatta I, E.J.P. Brown, Dr. B.N. Quote, Papafio, the lawyer J.E. Casely Hayford, who said Prempeh should be allowed to die in his own land. Yet he still had the sanity of preservation, even at a point when he had reached the limits of his powers. If he had not been strong at the time, Asante would have been weaker today. He would not also have been able to sponsor as progenitor the transition of Asante into the 20th century's modernity. Today's relationship with former adversaries is friendship, diplomacy, and cultural cooperation.
Thank you very much. Well, we were there not so very long ago.
No, in November.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I couldn't meet you.
And we didn't have time to travel outside of Prague.
It could even be a drawback to Imperial Anthem. Queen Victoria would have been happy with this. But the leaders of old also believed in fate and the destination of his cause, whether through layers in the deep forest, across streams or oceans. The path crosses the stream, they said. The stream crosses the path. Which is the elder? They once asked as a puzzle of sometimes life's dilemma. For they knew, if only for rhetoric, that the path was of long ago. The living also says in Asante of the death forbears. Yedru amanfuswa ne akai yanum. That the ancient of places remind us of the gallantry of the nation's builders. And so it is that a nephew remembers a great uncle.
Pantanya Bondamwe. One just Pantanya Bondamwe. Wabona Consoma Bebe Sanega Hendaso. Wabona Consoma Bebe Sanega Hendaso. What else you? Wabahi Bebe, what else you have the view in Mawano? I want just Pantanya Bondamwe. I want just Pantanya Bondamwe. Wabona Consoma Bebe Sanega Hendaso.
120 years ago, the British colonial authorities finally invaded Kumasi, the capital of the epic 19th century empire, and arrested the 26-year-old king of Asante, Kwekudua III, also called Nana Ajiman Prempeh I.